I've finally completed the panels. So in total, this is 2 layers of primer, 2 layers of black base coat, 2 layers of clear coat, then 2 layers of the special effect. Then I put the glad wrap over it and did all of that. And then finally 3 layers of clear coat, which I've cut flat and then buffed, polished and waxed. Yeah, you can see that it's come up quite nicely. It's not cut completely flat like glass. And that's just, I mean, it's not something that you see very often. It's very hard and time consuming to do. If I wanted this completely dead flat, I would have to have flow coated it. So after I had cut it flat, I would have to again clear coat it, maybe even a couple of times with a really thin clear coat. And then I could have cut it completely flat and buffed it and actually had enough thickness there to be able to cut it flat completely, confidently. Because if I have tried to cut this flat, even with 3 layers of clear coat, the DNA custom clear that I use is a really thin clear coat. It goes on really thinly. There just wasn't enough thickness there. And you know, in the end, I didn't have time to just come back and keep doing layers of clear coat. And I mean, that's something you only really see on like hypercars and show cars anyway, like going to that level of effort. But on the back here, you can see that we have the step before the special effect. So this is the black with the clear coat over it. A little bit of overspray, but you know, this is the back of the panel, so it's kind of made it a little bit of a satin or matte finish. So yeah, I'm fine with that. It's better than handling the panels in between the steps. That can lead to much worse problems on the front side, which I'd rather preserve the front side than the back side. But yeah, overall, I'm really happy with how this has turned out. I love this effect. I'd love to try different colors, different combinations. You know, flake, candy, metallic. This has actually got a little bit of metallic in it. If you get this on the right angle, you can see the sparkles in it. This case has a lot of different options for cable routing, so it makes the custom cables always a lot of fun. Now, because this case is not really designed for 2 360mm radiators, you can see that the radiator comes right down to the top of the board, which nicely hides the 8-pin EPS cable up there. Also, the tube running across the top hides it really well. The 24-pin didn't quite line up with this motherboard, so it curves up slightly, and because of that I decided to make a bit of a feature out of it and do the same thing with the PCIe cables. Now, for the PCIe cables in this case, you have many different options. Because of this big slot back here, you can run them between the graphics cards, above them or below them, and I always love cases where you can run them vertically. But this is actually quite a narrow slot, which means you have to run them side by side. You can't run them on top of each other like you can in some cases. So, you know, you can see that I've kind of spun them and rotated them down and sat them all next to each other. So it goes 6-pin, 8-pin, 6-pin, and then 8-pin. And that works really nicely. And they actually sit there quite solidly. And the reason for that is if you put a lot of time into your custom cables, you get the sleeve really tight. All of the lengths are the same. And there's no twists in the wires. They'll pretty much sit wherever you want them to, wherever you push them. Now, it does appear that they run extremely close to the back of the Aquaro, and they do, but it actually worked out really well. The connections we're using on the back of the Aquaro line up next to these cables. But, you know, I could have gone either way in this case. I could have run them between the graphics cards and around the back and hidden them, but because Carbon BTI is currently my favorite sleeve by far, I decided to make a feature out of them instead. I think carbon BTI really suits this build, tying in the black and the silver perfectly. So you can see we have the USB 3 there, a bit ugly. I mean, this is why I don't like front I/O. I personally don't really use it. I'd prefer other options such as a USB hub, like on the keyboard or something, you know, instead of having this kind of ugliness in a build, but you can't really see it there anyway. But there was nothing we could do about that. You can't sleeve that cable. The connectors on both ends are too big, and you just can't cut it. There's about 30 strands in each of the wires that come out of that. That's one that you really want to avoid customizing, and it's the only cable in this build that we haven't customized. Now we have lighting connected up there via a 3-pin fan header. Going across the bottom, we have the front panel power and hard drive LED. We have the pump RPM, then the USB for the Aquarius 6 XT. Another UV LED strip is connected there via a 3-pin fan header. Then we have the RGB for the SLI bridge, and then the front panel audio. So you can see where I've had to run this cable behind the SLI bridge and then down in the corner there, and that actually works out quite nicely. It runs underneath the expansion slots there.